just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. My name is Craig Borglum. I am a certified irrigation designer and an EPA WaterSense partner. And we're here tonight to talk about controllers and drought issues. As you know, Florida's in a prolonged drought and it's going to go on, so we're going to always be stuck with these water restrictions that we have. The water restrictions that we have, they're now statewide, are that you can only water twice a week, and you can only water between 4 p.m. and 10 a.m., which for most people should be more than enough time. For a lot of large commercial projects, they do have a problem with that water window. Anyways, this is more based toward the residential homeowner. I want to start speaking about the controllers. Okay, this is a very standard controller, probably the most common one that I see in my work in the residential market. And it's a digital controller, which is much better than the old mechanical controllers that you might have seen, especially in places like Sarasota County and Volusia County. You can't even have a mechanical controller anymore. So after I show how to operate this, then I was going to do a small PowerPoint showing how to change one out yourself in case you wanted to do that. So first, let's talk about run times. Sprays, which are the little pop-up ones that don't move, they just pop up, spray, and then pop back down. Those have to run for 1/3 of the time as what we call rotors. Rotors are the big ones that turn and spray a long distance. Quite often I will go and see where someone has all their sprinklers set to 30 minutes per zone, whereas they might have 2 spray zones and 2 rotor zones. So what's happening in this situation is the rotors aren't on long enough and the sprays might be on a little bit too long. Now, when we apply water, what we're trying to do is we want to fill the soil area, which is about 6 to 8 inches deep. We're not trying to water that much deeper than that, because trees and other really large, deep-rooted shrubs, they get water without having to put in a lot of supplemental water from your sprinkler system. So as we're trying to water this area, we're also trying to limit the amount of water that runs off, and also because Florida has very sandy soil, the water has a tendency to percolate down past the root zone to where it's not available to the plant to use. So what I'm going to show you is a different kind of way to set your controller versus what I commonly see, which is they just set it for, let's say, 20 minutes for the sprays and an hour for the rotors. Which, if you have a reasonably efficient sprinkler system, that's probably a good ballpark figure to use, because you can't get a real to-the-minute idea of what any individual zone at your house would use without doing a water audit, which is a complicated, expensive thing. So we'll just assume that we want to run the spray zones for 20 minutes and the rotor zones for an hour. And of course, that would change if an area is in deep shade, you would probably want to do half that amount. We're talking about areas that are in full sun. So rather than run the rotors for an hour and the sprays for 20 minutes, it would be better to run the rotors for 20 minutes and the sprays for 7 minutes, but set our controller to go on 3 times consecutively. Meaning if we have 3 zones, 2 rotors and a spray, it would go 20, 27, and then the whole thing would start again, and then it would start again. The reason for that is because we're trying to eliminate 2 things. Runoff on the top of thatch for St. Augustine. If you try to apply that much water, run those rotors for an hour at a time, the water is eventually going to start to move laterally, because the percolation rate of the soil is not going to be pure beach sand. So eventually it's going to stop percolating, stop going down into the soil, and start to move laterally across the ground. And the other thing is that it's going to go down past the roots. Now, water's cohesive. If you take a couple drops of water, put on a glass, and you see when they touch, they become one big drop of water because it sticks to itself. So a much better way to water your yard is to put down the first application. Okay, because it's a shorter run time, it's not going to percolate down as deep. And when you put down your second application, the first one will catch that as it's going through. So we put down one, and we put down another while there's already some water in that root profile, and it'll help trap that water and keep it from deep percolating. And then we put down some more. And so that way we have less water running down through the gutters, and we also have more water in our root profile, so we don't have to water as long because we're making better use of of what we have. Now, you don't always have to use that much water. The highest evapotranspiration rates for Central Florida are April, May, and June, and September, October. That's when it's still hot out, but the humidity is very low. So when we're in, say like now, where lately we've been getting a lot of rain, you wouldn't need to run it quite that long, maybe only 80% of that amount of time. So how do you do that without completely going around and changing every zone time? Well, any decent digital controller will have a function here called a water budget or a water adjust. I think Hunter calls it a global adjust. And what it does is if we have 60 minutes on zone 1, and let's see what's on zone 2 here, 20 on that and 60 on that. Let's say we want to use, we think we could drop our runtime by about 20%. So instead of changing all of these individually and trying to do the math on it too, what's the 20% of whatever you're running, you turn it to this water budget. And using the up-down buttons, if we bring this down to 70% and we start this controller, now instead of the zone 1 running for 60 minutes, it's going to run 42. And what was running 20 minutes is now going to run 14. And when we get in the wintertime, you can probably set this down to 30 or 40% of what's needed during the hottest, least humid parts of the year. Now, I'm going to show you how to, I'm going to bring this back up to 100. And I'm going to show you how to set these run times. Okay. That's at 60 minutes, so we don't want to do that. We're going to bring that down to 20. And then we're going to take this next one, there's 20, that's a spray zone, and we're going to bring it down to 7. And what we're going to do is we're going to make this controller start 3 times. So we go to the first start time, which let's say is, we'll make that 3 a.m. And let's say all of this time together here equals 50 minutes. We're going to go to the next start time. And because we're not going to be running a full hour, we're going to make that one start at 4 a.m. And then we're going to go to the third run time, and we're going to make that start at 5 a.m. This way, we're not trying to apply all the water at one time. And it's called a syringe cycling method, and it's a much better way than trying to apply all the water at once. So let's say you have an old, Richtel mechanical controller with the little white pins, and it's hard to tell exactly how long it's running, and you can't make it start multiple times. So you may want to, in order to save money, since this water budget function makes it so easy to change your run times, you're more likely to go out and do that than if it's a complicated ordeal with a mechanical controller. So I'm going to explain how, if you have one of these older type controllers, how you can take it and change it to a digital controller.